Good morning, students. Yesterday we discussed with the bailment. What is a bailment? In the previous class, we discussed with the bailment. What are its essential factors or features? Then what are the different types of bailment? Then in addition to that, what are the rights or who are the parties with regard to the bailment contract? Bailer and bailee. So they are having the rights and duties. So we already see what are the rights with regard to the bailer and duties also with the bailer and also the rights and duties with the bailee. And also we see a law relating to the lien, means that is to be retaining the possession. That is the law relating to lien. And in that, who is a finder of goods and what are the duties or the responsibilities or the rights with regard to the finder of the goods and also the liabilities with regard to the finder of the goods. Till that much, this one, and also how it is to be terminated, means the bailment contract also to be terminated, how it is to be terminated. So this is the thing with regard to bailment. So upon accomplishing the particular task, it may be returned back, the goods may be returned back, or another thing is, as per the directions of the bailee, the bailer, it may be disposed of. So this is the bailment. And till this much part is the bailment. Then today we are going to see the pledge. So what is a pledge and what are its essentials like that? So we will start with the pledge. So pledge. So pledge is what? It is a special kind of bailment. So it is also a type of bailment. The bailment of goods as security for the payment of a debt or the performance of a promise is called the pledge. Pledge എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ pledge ചെയ്യുന്നു കേട്ടിട്ടില്ലേ? അപ്പൊ എന്താണ് ഒരു bailment contract തന്നെയാണ് upon the payment of a debt. So as a security, the bailment of goods as a security for the payment of a debt or the performance of a promise. ഒരു promise perform ചെയ്യുകയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കടം പേയ്മെന്റ് നടത്തുകയോ ചെയ്യുകയോ ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിന് ഗുഡ്സിന്റെ പേയ്മെന്റ് സെക്യൂരിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് വെക്കുന്നു. അതിനാണ് പ്ലഡ്ജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അതായത് ഹൈപ്പോത്തിക്കേഷൻ, another name. So the bailer in this case is the pledger or the pawner, and the bailee is called the pledgee or pawning. So it is a type of bailment, and the bailer is the one starting with this bailment contract, or in the case of bailment, and there is bailee who agrees to that. Like the same in pledge, there is a pledger and pledgee. So pledger or pawner, PAWNOR, and pledgee or pawning. അതാണ് ഓർക്കേണ്ടത്. So in the case of bailment, two parties are there, bailer and bailee. In the case of a pledge also, it is pledger and pledgee, or pawner and pawning. So section 172 defines a pledge as the bailment of goods as security for the payment of a debt or the performance of a promise. ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പ്രോമിസിന്റെ പെർഫോമൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഡെറ്റ് കടത്തിന്റെ പേയ്മെന്റ് upon what, then it should be which one? The bailment of goods as a security. So the bailment of goods as a security for the payment of a debt or the performance of a promise is called the pledge. The bailer in this case is the pledger or the pawner, and the bailee in this case is the pledgee or the pawner. In other words, pledge can be termed as a bailment for security, surety. അതായത് സെക്യൂരിറ്റിക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു bailment ആണ് എന്താന്ന് പറയുന്നത് pledge. For example, if A borrows rupees 5,000 from B and gives her gold chain as security for the payment of the debt, then the bailment is a pledge. So For example, A is borrowing rupees 5,000 from B. B in 5,000 രൂപ മേടിക്കുകയാണ് and gives her gold chain as a security. ഒരു സെക്യൂരിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? ഗോൾഡ് ചെയിൻ കൊടുക്കുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ആ ഗോൾഡ് ചെയിൻ ആണ് എന്ത്? ആ 5,000 രൂപയ്ക്ക് പകരമായിട്ട് ബി കൊടുക്കുന്ന എന്താണ്? A borrows 5,000 from B. B ന്ന് 5,000 കടം മേടിച്ചു. എന്നിട്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? ഈ 5,000 കിട്ടുന്ന ഇതിന് ആ സമയത്തെ ഇത് തിരിച്ചു തന്നാൽ മതി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു ഹൈപ്പോത്തിക്കേഷൻ പോലെ ഇത് വെക്കുന്നു. എന്ത്? എ ഗോൾഡ് ചെയിൻ. സോ B and gives her a gold chain as a security for the payment of the debt, and such a case this is the pledge. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കേസിലാണ് അത് pledge എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Then what are the differences between a bailment and a pledge? What are the differences between, or the mode of differences? എന്തൊക്കെ കാര്യത്തിനാണ് അത് ഇതാകുന്നത്? So that is, what are the differences? First case is purpose. What is the purpose with regard to this one? So purpose, bailment can be made for any purpose, but pledge is only for a specific purpose, maybe a security for the payment of a debt or the performance of a promise. ഒരു പ്രോമിസ് പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഡെറ്റ്, ഒരു കടത്തിന്റെ പേയ്മെന്റ് നടത്തുന്നതിന് ഷുവർ സെക്യൂരിറ്റി വെക്കുന്നു. സുരക്ഷിതമായിട്ട് ഇത് നീ എനിക്ക് ഇത് തരുന്ന സമയത്തേക്ക് നീ ഇത് തിരിച്ചു തന്നാൽ മതി എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ക്ലോസ് വെച്ച് ഒരു സെക്യൂരിറ്റി വെക്കുന്നു. ആ സെക്യൂരിറ്റിയാണ് പ്ലെഡ്ജ്. അപ്പം സ്പെസിഫിക് പർപ്പസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ് പ്ലെഡ്ജ്, വൈൽ എനി പർപ്പസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ് ബെയിൽമെന്റ്. സോ ബേസ്ഡ് ഓൺ ദ പർപ്പസ്, ബെയിൽമെന്റ് ക്യാൻ ബി മെയ്ഡ് ഫോർ എനി പർപ്പസ്. ഹോഴ്സിനെ കുതിരയെ കൊടുക്കുന്നതിനും അതുപോലെ എന്ത് കാര്യങ്ങൾക്കാണെങ്കിലും. എന്നാൽ pledge is made for a specific purpose only, as a security for the payment of a debt or for the performance of a promise. Then second point, right to sell. വിൽക്കുന്നതിനുള്ള അവകാശം. Right to sell the product. A bailey has no right to sell the product. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്? Because ownership is with whom? The bailor. While pledge has a right to sell the goods pledged in case of the default by the pledger or the owner. Owner and a pledger makes default in or fail to pay the money or fail to pay something. In such a case, it is having the right of the pledgee or the body to sell the goods. While in the case of bailment, it cannot be, because ownership only is passing. Ownership is vested with the owner, the bailor, while the possession is to be transferred to the bailey. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് റൈറ്റ് ടു സെൽ ദ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്. അപ്പൊ ഗുഡ്സ് വിൽക്കാൻ എന്തിനകത്താണ് അവകാശം? റൈറ്റ് ടു സെൽ വിൽക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഏതിനകത്താണ്? ഇൻ ദ കേസ് ഓഫ് പ്ലെഡ്ജി. ഇൻ ദ കേസ് ഓഫ് പ്ലെഡ്ജ്, this one is to be there, means right to sell by the pledgee in case the pledger defaults, makes default in paying that one or fail to do so. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് രണ്ടാമത്തെ പോയിന്റ്, റൈറ്റ് ടു സെൽ ദ ഗുഡ്സ്. അപ്പം a bailey has no right to sell the product or the goods, while a pledgee has the right to sell if the pledger fails to do so. അതാണ് നോക്കേണ്ടത്. Then right to use the goods. മൂന്നാമത്തെ ഇത് right to use the goods. Right to use the goods. In case of bailment, the bailey may use the goods bailed as per the terms of the contract, while in a pledge, the pledge has no right of using the goods. ഉപയോഗിക്കാനുള്ള അവകാശമില്ല പ്ലെഡ്ജിനകത്ത്. എന്നാൽ ബെയിൽമെന്റിനകത്ത് എന്തുണ്ട്? The bailey can utilize that one, because the possession is with whom? The bailey, and the ownership is with whom? The bailor. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് purpose. What are the purpose? What are the differences? One is purpose. In case of the bailment, it is for any purpose, while in case of a pledge, it is for a special purpose or specific purpose, means it is based on the security for the payment of any debt or the performance of a promise. Then right to sell. In case of the bailment, the bailey has no right to sell the product and sell the goods, while in case of a pledger, the pledgee has the right to sell if the pledger fails to do so or makes a default in paying that one. അതായത് അവർ പേ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, പ്ലെഡ്ജർ പേ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ പ്ലെഡ്ജി മേ ഹാസ് ദ റൈറ്റ് ടു sell the product. And third, the right to use the goods. right to use the goods in the case of bailment, the bailee may use the goods bailed. Bail ചെയ്ത അതായത് ഇത് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഡെലിവർ ചെയ്ത ഗുഡ്സ് പൊസഷൻ ആണ് ട്രാൻസ്ഫർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഗുഡ്സ് ഉപയോഗിക്കാനായിട്ട് ബെയിലിക്ക് അധികാരമുണ്ട്. പ്ലെഡ്ജിനകത്ത് പ്ലെഡ്ജി ഹാസ് നോ റൈറ്റ്. അതാണ്. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദ ഡിഫറൻസസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ എ ബെയിൽമെന്റ് ആൻഡ് എ പ്ലെഡ്ജ്. The next is the rights of the pony or the pledgee. അതായത് ബെയിലി എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു ഇതാണ് ഇതിനകത്ത്. ബെയിൽമെന്റിനകത്തെ ബെയിലിയാണ്, പ്ലെഡ്ജിനകത്തെ പ്ലെഡ്ജി. സോ what are the rights with regard to the pony or the pledgee? So first is right of retainer. First right is retain the thing. Right of retainer. So what is that? The pony can exercise the lien on the goods pledged not only for the payment of the debt or the performance of the promise, but for the interest and all other necessary expenses in connection with the preservation of the goods pledged. Pledge ചെയ്ത ഗുഡ്സിന്റെ അതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് വരുന്ന എല്ലാ ചെലവുകളും അതിന്റെ പലിശയും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ in case of the performance or the payment of the debt, the security with regard to he can exercise the pledgee or the pony can exercise the lien. Lien means retain the possession. Adana lien. Law relating to lien innala kandadallo. So retain the possession. Adana right of the retainer. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കൈവശം വെക്കാനായിട്ട് അല്ലെ ഉപയോഗിക്കാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു തടസ്സം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും അത് കൈവശം വെച്ച് ഇതാണ് എന്ന്, അതായത് ഇതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഏതെല്ലാം എക്സ്പെൻസസ് ഉണ്ടോ, എക്സ്ട്രാ ഓർഡിനറി എക്സ്പെൻസസ് ഉണ്ടോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നെസസറി എക്സ്പെൻസസ് ഉണ്ടോ, അതെല്ലാം തന്നെ എന്ത് ആർക്ക് ഇത് ചെയ്യാം? ബൈ പ്രിസർവേഷൻ ഓഫ് ദ ഗുഡ്സ് പ്ലെഡ്ജ്ഡ്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദി റൈറ്റ്സ് ഓഫ് ദ റീറ്റെയിനർ. സോ ക്ലിയർ? To retain the goods, in order to retain the goods means what? The pony can exercise the lien on the goods pledged not only for the payment or for the performance of a promise, payment of a debt or performance of a promise, adinu matramalla, but for the interest and all other necessary expenses in connection with the preservation of such goods pledged. Pledge ചെയ്ത ഗുഡ്സിന്റെ സുരക്ഷിതമായിട്ട് സൂക്ഷിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള വരുത്തുന്ന ചെലവുകൾ, അതിന്റെ പലിശ, ഇതെല്ലാം ആർക്ക് റീറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യാം? Need to get it from the pledger by the pledgee or the pony. So that is the first right of the retainer. Next is right about extraordinary expenses. The pony has a right to recover. The pony has a right to recover from the owner what the extraordinary expenses incurred for the preservation of the goods pledged. Pledge ചെയ്ത ഗുഡ്സിനെ സുരക്ഷിതമായി സൂക്ഷിക്കുന്നതിന് വരുന്നതായ ചെലവുകൾ എന്തൊക്കെയുണ്ടോ, all that expenses to be met by the whom, if all that expenses to be taken or incurred by, if the pony is there, then he can claim it from the owner or the pledger. Clear? So that is right about extraordinary expenses, but he has no right of lien over the goods for extraordinary expenses. The pony has a right to recover from the owner the extraordinary expenses incurred for the preservation of the goods pledged. Pledge ചെയ്ത ഗുഡ്സിന്റെ പ്രിസർവ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള വരുന്നതായ എല്ലാ ചെലവുകളും, എക്സ്ട്രാ ഓർഡിനറി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ചെലവുകളെല്ലാം, that is to be what is that? To be recovered from the pledger or the owner. So that is second one about extraordinary expenses. Extraordinary expenses. Then third, right of retainer for subsequent advance also. Subsequent advance also. So what is that? When the pony or the pledgee lends money to the same owner after the date of the pledge, it is presumed that the right of the retainer over the pledged goods extends to subsequent advances also. Appo same ownerക്ക് തന്നെ pony എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? After the date of the pledge, pledgeന്റെ ആ ഒരു particular dateന് ശേഷം pony lends money to the same owner കൊടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, it is presumed that the right of the retainer over the pledged goods, pledge ചെയ്യുന്ന ഗുഡ്സിന്റെ റീറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നതിനുള്ള അവകാശം, that extends to such subsequent advances. അങ്ങനെ extra advance കൊടുക്കുന്ന ആ ഒരു particular case, if the pony gives money, it is the right of the pony to retain the pledged goods. അതാണ് rights of the retainer for subsequent advances. And then fourth, rights where owner makes default. Owner or the pledger makes default. So he is failed to do so. In such a case, what are the rights? Where the owner of a goods makes default in the performance of the promise or the payment of a debt at the stipulated time period, the following rights are available to the pony. He may file a case against the owner upon the debt or promise and may retain the goods pledged as a collateral security. So he can retain the goods കൈവശം വെക്കാം as the goods pledged as a collateral security. അതായത് owner fails to do so in paying the money അല്ലെങ്കിൽ in pursuance with the performance of a promise or the payment of a debt, then he in the sense means the pony may retain the goods pledged as a collateral security. Then he may sell the goods pledged after giving reasonable notice to the owner. After giving reasonable notice to the owner or the pledger as the bailer in the bailment, isn't it? So giving reasonable notice for selling the goods pledged. That's where option. The pony can recover from the owner any deficiency arising on the sale of the goods on default. The pony can recover from the owner. He can recover it. What? Recover from the owner any deficiency arising on the sale of the goods on default. In case the owner fails to pay the debt or fails to perform the promise, then in such a case, if a deficiency occurs due to such a thing in the sense means for the sale of the goods on default, the pony can recover the amount from the owner. ആ ഒരു കുറവ് വിറ്റ് വന്നപ്പോൾ ആ amount ആ ഒരു ഐറ്റത്തിന് വരുന്ന കുറവ് he can take it from the owner or he can ask from the owner that one. So these are the rights with regard to which one a pony or the pledgee as a bailee in the bailment. So right to retain and right about extraordinary expenses and taking subsequent advances also, and the owner, in case the owner makes any default, he may file a case against the owner or he can sold the goods until and unless after giving reasonable notice to the owner, and also the pony can recover from the owner any deficiency arising on the sale of the goods on the default. However, he is also bound to hand over the surplus if any on the sale. Extra amount kittunnundengil he can give it back to them. So he is also bound to hand over the surplus. Surplus on the sale, it is to be handed over to the pledger. So these are the rights with regard to a pledgee or a pony. So we see what is a pledger and who is a pledger and who is a pledgee, like the bailer and bailee in the case of a bailment, and what are the rights or the duties, rights with regard to the pledgee in case goods are pledged. Then pledge by non-owners. Next term is pledge by non-owners. Only an owner of a commodity can affect a valid pledge. ഒരാൾ ആ ഒരു കമ്മോഡിറ്റിയുടെ ഉടമസ്ഥൻ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലെ പ്ലെഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. But there are a few exceptional situations wherever a non-owner would affect a valid pledge. ഒരു യഥാർത്ഥ ഉടമസ്ഥൻ അല്ലാത്ത കേസിലും പ്ലെഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യാം എന്നുള്ളതിന്റെ ചില ക്ലോസസ് ഉണ്ട്. അതേതാണ് നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. Pledge by a mercantile agent. So who is a mercantile agent? We need to see who is a mercantile agent. So pledge by a mercantile agent. A mercantile agent who is in possession of the goods or of documents of the title to the goods with the consent of the owner, can make a valid pledge while acting in the ordinary course of business as if he were expressly authorized by the owner of the goods to make the same. So who is that? A mercantile agent who is in possession of the goods or of documents of the title to the goods. ആ സാധനത്തിന്റെ അവകാശികൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ഒരു ഐറ്റത്തിന്റെ അതിന്റെ documents or the title to the goods, okay, with the consent of the owner, യഥാർത്ഥ ഓണറിന്റെ സമ്മതം ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കണം, can make a valid pledge while acting in the ordinary course of business as if he were expressly authorized by the owner of the goods to make the same. But the pledge is valid only if the pony or the pledgee acts in good faith, uttama vishwasathil and has not at the time of the pledge noticed that the owner has no authority to pledge. So this is the case with regard to a pledge by a mercantile agent. So who is a mercantile agent? Who is in possession of the goods or of the documents of the title to the goods with the consent of the owner itself can make a valid pledge. യഥാർത്ഥമായിട്ടൊരു പ്ലഡ്ജ് അവിടെ നടത്താൻ പറ്റുന്നത് ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കേസിലാണ്. While acting in the ordinary course of business as if he were expressly authorized by the owner of the goods to make good the same. But the pledge is valid only if the pony acts in good faith, or the pledgee, the bailey, അല്ലെ, ബെയിൽമെന്റിലെ ബെയിലി ആണ് പ്ലഡ്ജിലെ പ്ലഡ്ജി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ഓർ പോണി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഈ പോണി എന്താണ്? ഇൻ ഗുഡ് ഫെയ്ത്ത് വിത്ത് ദ ഓണർ. ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി ദേർ വിത്ത് ദ മെർക്കന്റൈൽ ഏജന്റ്. Good faith with the mercantile agent, so that and not at the time of the pledge notice that owner has no authority to pledge. അപ്പോൾ ഓണർക്ക് പ്ലഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അധികാരം ഇല്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഏത് സമയത്തല്ല? നോട്ട് അറ്റ് ദ ടൈം ഓഫ് ദ പ്ലഡ്ജ് നോട്ടീസ്. ആ പ്ലഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനുള്ള നോട്ടീസ് കൊടുക്കുമ്പോൾ, വാലിഡ് നോട്ടീസ് കൊടുക്കുമ്പോഴല്ല, അല്ലാതെ പ്ലഡ്ജി ഷുഡ് ബി ഇൻ ഗുഡ് ഫെയ്ത്ത് വിത്ത് ദ മെർക്കന്റൈൽ ഏജന്റ് ഓർ ദ പ്ലഡ്ജർ. So that is the case with regard to extra clauses, that is a pledge by non-owners. The following are the conditions for the pledge to be valid. The mercantile agent must be in possession of the goods or documents of the title to the goods. They must have the possession of the goods. The goods should be possessed by them, isn't it? The goods should be possessed by them. So that is, the mercantile agent must be in possession of the goods or the documents of the title to the goods. That is the first case. Then the possession of the goods must be with the consent of the owner. യഥാർത്ഥ അവകാശിയുടെ സമ്മതത്തോടു കൂടി വേണം അതിന്റെ പൊസഷൻ നടത്താൻ. Possession of the goods should be with the consent of the actual owner. Then the goods must be in the possession of the agent in his capacity as a mercantile agent. അപ്പോൾ പ്ലഡ്ജർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് അല്ലെ ഓണർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒരു ഏജന്റ് ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ he must be an agent in his capacity to possess the goods. അതാണ് അടുത്ത ക്ലോസ്. So the goods must be in possession of the agent in his capacity as a mercantile agent, and the pledgee or the pony must act in good faith and should not have the notice that the owner has no authority to sell. ഓണർക്ക് യാതൊരുവിധ അവകാശവും ഇല്ല എന്ന്, വിൽക്കാനുള്ള അവകാശവും ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു നോട്ടീസ് അത് കൊടുക്കാതെ the pony should have in utmost good faith with the agent as well as the owner. അതാണ് ഒരു കേസ്. So thereby pledge by a mercantile agent, in such a case they must have the possession of the goods, isn't it? So that is the first point. That is, mercantile agent must be in possession of the goods. Mercantile agent must be in possession of the goods or documents of the title to the goods, and then the possession of the goods must be with the consent of the actual owner. യഥാർത്ഥ ഓണറിന്റെ കൺസെന്റോട് കൂടി വേണം the possession should be undertaken. And the goods must be in possession of the agent in his capacity as a mercantile agent. The goods must be in possession of the agent in his capacity as a mercantile agent. ഒരു mercantile agent ആയിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു സാക്ഷ്യപത്രം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ act as a mercantile agent, and he has the right to possess the goods on behalf of the owner, isn't it? So then, and the last part, the pony must act in good faith, and the pony must act in good faith and should not have the notice that the owner has no authority to sell such goods. So that is the pledge by a mercantile agent. Then the second one, pledge by a person. Pledge by a person in possession under a voidable contract. In possession under a voidable contract. So that is the second point. Where a person obtains a possession of the goods under a voidable contract, the pledge created by him is valid provided the contract has not been rescinded before the contract of pledge. Contract of pledge ന് മുമ്പ് ക്യാൻസൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടാകുകയില്ല. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കേസിൽ should become a valid one. So when a person obtains the possession of the goods under a voidable contract, the pledge created by him is valid provided the contract has not been rescinded before the contract of the pledge, and the pony acts in good faith and without the notice of the owner's defect of title. So the pony should act in good faith. Uttama vishwasathilirikkanam pony towards the owner. So in such a case, the pony acts in good faith and without notice of the owner's defect of title. There should not be any notice with regard to that purpose. So the pony should act in good faith. So this is the case. Second one, pledge by a person in possession under a voidable contract. So where a person obtains a possession of the goods under a voidable contract, the pledge created by him is valid. Pledge created by him is valid provided the contract has not been rescinded. The contract has not been cancelled before the contract of pledge, and the pony acts in good faith and without notice of the owner's defect of title. So that is the second point, pledge by a person in possession under a voidable contract. Third is pledge where a owner has only a limited interest. അധികം താല്പര്യമില്ല കാണിക്കുന്ന എങ്കിൽ ഓക്കെ ഒരു പ്ലഡ്ജില് where a owner or a pledger having only limited interest. അധികം താല്പര്യം കാണിക്കുന്നില്ലാത്ത കേസുകൾ. So how it is to be? Where a person pledges goods in which he has only a limited interest, the pledge is valid to extent of that interest. Up to a certain extent only he is having interested for that such a pledge. Up to that much value only this month. So for example, A finds a mobile phone on a street and spends ₹200 on its repair. He pledges it with B for ₹500, but the pledge is valid to the extent of 200 as how the repair charges is only 200. The true owner can recover the phone only on paying 200 to the pledgee. അപ്പോൾ യഥാർത്ഥ ഓണർ അത് കെട്ടുമ്പോൾ ₹200 മാത്രം കൊടുത്താൽ മതി. കാര്യം only 200 is to be expended there. So only a limited interest is having with the pledgee also. So or the owner. So that is the case where a owner has only a limited interest. Then understand that one. അതായത് ₹200 ഒരു മൊബൈൽ ഫോണ് ഒരു സ്ട്രീറ്റിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടി. അപ്പൊ എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? spends ₹200 on its repair. അതിന്റെ റിപ്പയറിന് ₹200 കൊടുത്തു. Then he pledges it with a B for 500. ₹500 എവിടുന്ന് ബിയുടെ അടുത്തുനിന്ന് അതിനെ പ്ലഡ്ജ് ചെയ്തു പുള്ളി. So in such a case, the pledge is valid to the extent of 200 only because the exact price or the exact repair charges is how much? And 200, and up to that limit only he is interested. Okay, so he pledges it with the B for ₹500, and the pledge is valid to the extent of ₹200. So the true owner can recover the phone only on paying ₹200 to the pledge. Then pledge by a co-owner in possession. Co-owner in possession. So how is it to be? Where there are several joint owners of goods. Pala owners and goods are in the sole possession of one of the co-owners with the consent of other co-owners. Such a co-owner may create a valid pledge of that commodity. So that is Pala owners Adile Orala main owner Aida consentum, Matulanda consentum Kuda Venam in the create a valid pledge. Our particular commodity item in so pledge by a co-owner in possession as where there are several joint owners of the goods and the goods are in the sole possession of one of the co-owners with the consent of other co-owners. Such a co-owner may create a valid pledge of that commodity. With the consent of the other co-owners. Much possession co-owners and he can retain the possession or he can do it the valid pledge there. Then fifth point, pledge by seller in possession after sale. Okay, a seller and the possession retain so a seller who is in possession of the goods even after the sale, if makes a pledge is valid, provided the pony acts in good faith and has no notice on the sale. Because the pony is in utmost faith with the pawner. In such a case, that pledge should be valid one. So that is the pledge by the seller in possession after the sale. And last point, pledge by the buyer in possession after the sale. Before the sale, not after. So, buyer pledge by the buyer in possession before the sale. So, pledge by buyer in possession before the sale. A buyer in possession of the goods before the sale, it makes a pledge is valid provided the pony acts in good faith and without any notice on the right of the original seller. There is nothing mentioned there in the notice with regard to the original seller, and the pony should be in good faith with the owner. The rights with regard to a mercantile agent. Pledge by a mercantile agent, then pledge by a person in possession under a voidable contract, where a owner having only limited interest with regard to such a pledge. Owner in the sense means the pledger. Then pledge and the pledge by a co-owner in possession with the goods. Then pledge by a seller in possession after the sale and pledge by a buyer in possession before the sale. Possession. Okay, other seller case they should be in utmost good faith. Who the pony should be in utmost good faith. So today we discussed with what all things. What is a pledger? Who is a pledger? Then who is a pledgee or the owner and pony? Then what are his rights? Isn't it? And what are the rights with regard to a mercantile agent? So with that we come to the concluding part of this the third module, bailment and pledge. Hope you are understand the topics with regard to. Please have a look at and please clear the doubts as and when arises.